start over, I think. Okay, hold on. Is Woo! We're live! Welcome to
Now we're
Metamour
live.
Chats. Yes, now we're live. Welcome to Metamour Chats, the live pleasure podcast where me and my boyfriend's other girlfriend help you with deepen your intimacy.
And understanding alternative relationship structures and styles. I'm Fifi, she, they, bisexual, polyamorous, greedy.
And I'm Gabby. She, they. I'm a cheater, obviously, because I'm bisexual and polyamorous, right?
No. No, we're just two femmes, also friends who have the same boyfriend. His name is Bear. And yeah, we're not dating. We're
Yes.
just metamours.
We are just really good friends, and you are watching the fourth episode now of Metamour Chats titled How to Be a Good Metamour.
This is what we're all here for, the metamour relationship. So we're here to answer some questions. Pretty hyped about those. And we got you. We're
Yes.
going through it. I don't think we're going to be able to cover this topic in its entirety, but we'll do our best.
Yeah. We actually got truly a bunch of questions from the audience, and we're excited to jump into them today and kind of like finally give you guys the answers you've been waiting for since Metamour Chats was announced.
Yeah. And we're not here forever. So this is a 8 week season. This is our first season. Yeah.
Our first season,
So
yes.
you can't find us if you're not here right now on this live with us today. You can find all replays on YouTube on this channel, also metamourculture.com, where there are amazing resources, show notes, and our amazing merch line, which is a similar shade of
Yes.
pink, my favorite hoodie, but it's not this one, but they're mad cute. And so, yeah, that's for the folks not here right now, where you can find
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, you can catch replays. We're on all of the major podcast networks, and I mean, we were mostly focused on YouTube, but I've been really pleased to see how many of you are engaging with us on audio podcast platforms. Shout out to Apple Podcasts, where people really love us. Thank you.
No, for real. Yeah, this is definitely an adventure and an experiment for us. I'm a relationship coach. I coach with Bear, and Gabby is a software engineer. And so we've
And a
come
marketing
together.
professional, a marketing
There
manager.
we
I have
go.
many hats, and I'm the big social media person, and I'm always like, can we do a reels? And they're like, we're coaching actual clients right now. What are you talking about?
No, like I really need to bring Gabby on as our marketing director. Like the visions are there, and I'm so grateful that we joined forces and started this podcast for y'all because it's so rich and the feedback has been so encouraging. So thank you all for supporting and listening.
Thank
So,
you.
um, thank you. And we talked last week about kink and negotiations. That was fun. I had a really good time talking about IBS and
Yes.
modeling that for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and just talking about negotiation, I mean, we've modeled that for you guys, and you really enjoyed that. So we're definitely going to keep talking about stuff like that, not in this episode, but throughout the duration of our podcast.
Do you are you feeling called to jump into question asking how to be
I
a good
am. How to
metamour?
be a good.
Yeah.
Well, let's intro the topic first. Like, how do you think you have to be a good
How
metamour?
to be a good metamour? There's no like one straight answer. That's the thing. Like that's what I really feel is going to come out of looking through some of these questions is that I'm probably going to wish I had more context
Yep.
because
Yes.
context matters. Yeah,
Always.
and
Yes.
always. So like that's the thing about the metamour relationship. It's not a one size fits all. It just isn't. Like simply is not.
I mean, in
Like we
general,
could.
relationship advice is it can't be one size fits all. So the idea that the metamour relationship can just fit into a simple template is like, what relationship do you know does that?
A lot of people want that. That's what's
Mm-hmm.
so challenging about That's why I'll never be out of a job. And the Metamour relationship will never stop being super complicated because it's one of the most out there, I would say, of the intimacies. Like, it's so hard for us to even conceive of our partner taking pleasure from someone outside of us
Yeah.
that, like, compersion feels, yo, if society could get to compersion, I might
Oh.
I
Well,
might have some
and
hope,
not that
but
compersion is like necessary, but more so
necessary.
like that you have an openness to compersion at the very least, and that a commitment to managing your emotions in a way that like allows your partner to enjoy things would be a good starting
It
point.
it's it sounds so simple. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, it sounds too simple. Well, let's get into questions. I mean, well,
Yeah, yeah.
what
Let's see what some of the
having taken
nuances.
Metamore for me, I mean, I used to be like so anxious all the time about the role of being a Metamore because I had had so many tumultuous, um, non-monogamous relationships. Um, so like I just went in like, oh my god, we're gonna hate each other potentially, or it's gonna turn out like weird or awkward or distant. And you know what? Just when I came in thinking that, like certainly you and my other Metamore have truly proved me wrong. Um, Neither of you is what I expected, but you're what I
Oh
got in
my
a really great way. Thank you for having great taste in partners.
God. I don't know. Maybe it was like a rite of passage thing. I think we all, I don't know anyone who hasn't undergone some versions of learning as you go
Mm-hmm.
with this kind of dating, relating, engaging, intimacy, romance. Like, if you're doing it in a way where there is no pre-recorded template or way to follow, if you're saying, you know what, no, we're going to check in as we go along the whole way through, and that means that I might try something that I won't know I don't like until I try it.
Exactly. Exactly. And being empathetic through that period, like I might come up against things that are triggering or that I didn't know I didn't like until it happened. But like looking at the context of the situation and understanding that everyone's moving with care, but which can only happen if everyone is moving with care. um,
Yo, start watching
right?
Couple to Throuple.
Oh my
They are
god.
doing it
Okay.
wrong.
No, let's talk about it before we get to questions. I have to talk about it. It's driving me bananas. So I like spoke to a lot of members of the cast because and I'm so grateful because I definitely got a more holistic idea of like what everyone's intentions are going in. But I just still feel like the impact on the solos is
On
bananas.
the singles. My God.
But
Someone used the word dehumanizing, and I agree.
I agree, and then they just felt so shut down, right? As a result of that, uh, I, if I ever heard the feedback from someone that they felt dehumanized because of something that I did, that's just such a severe feeling for someone, and it's probably really intense in their experience that I feel like I would immediately be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. What were the actions that I did? Like, help me understand. And I would immediately jump into a place of curiosity, but there was not that happening, and it just like broke my heart so entirely, so much. So
Jeez Louise. Yo, I was seeing that. I was like, I feel so bad for all of them, first of all. And
yeah,
having recorded a reality TV pilot, like, I understand the pressure that having the cameras right there, and like, you don't know what version of you they're painting, and you're
and
able to
there's not a
communicate
lot of
directly to them.
autonomy.
Exactly, there really isn't. And so, like, unless you're getting more information from the back end directly from the people, it is not looking good. Isn't these people's characters is looking a little, not a little, very, very judgmental, just inconsiderate. I mean, the structure of the entire show is couples privilege, is point blank. Couples privilege is the center be all
Of the
of
show.
the show. Yes. And the treatment, and it's kind of like a test to see if the couple can awaken to that,
Yeah.
to couples privilege. And you look like you're trying to figure something out.
Yeah, someone said that they couldn't hear me very well, and I was like, oh no, I don't want that to be the case. My
Oh, I don't think your mic was plugged.
It was plugged, so it's just that it's not working, but I unplugged it. You can hear me better now? Can you hear me?
Let me see. Hold on. Why?
Can you hear me?
We gotta do a audio check.
You can't hear me?
Audio check. I hear you.
You hear me?
But
So
do the
I unplugged
people
me.
hear you?
I think so. Everything is going much louder. Someone was like, I can't hear you very well, and I'm like, totally. Okay. So we fixed it. Thank you, Val Rodriguez, they were like, I can't hear you, and they probably left. But I'm so glad that we caught that early while we were doing our little banter. And you know what? Hopefully I can
Before
fix
we
it.
got into the questions.
Hopefully I can fix it in the edit, but if not, like, we'll refilm the edit for the recorded version. That's later. But
Yeah,
anyway,
for real.
let's get back to talking about couple. We were talking about couple to throuple, and we were saying truly, it is so disappointing to see how solos are taken advantage of on the show. And I feel so bad because at the same time, like, the host and the sexologist who's on the show, I feel like are clearly trying their best. Clearly. Like,
one thing that was pointed out was how come only the couples are getting support, that counseling support.
I agree. As soon as that was said, I agreed with it. I was like, you're right. Why is that happening?
Are you kidding? The couples are being dehumanized in that process. They are being treated like extras and used and just disposed of, and they feel that. And they have no one is holding them through that process. I just feel so bad for them. It's like a very the positioning is.
What I was saying would be like an alternative in my brain is like, I think of like, Are You the One, right? Where you go on a date with like a person every week and it's like more randomized. I feel like if the solos were taking them individually out on a date instead of them just getting to select, like, that process feels odd because at the end of the day, they are newbies to non-monogamy. So like the only thing they can make at that point is an aesthetic choice.
Precisely. This is all, I don't know. I mean, I'm mad about it, but I also understand how this is a stepping stone to introducing non-monogamy into the mainstream. And this is how folks are able to conceive of it digestible to the masses. And it's just giving hard kind of traditional swinger-esque, which makes sense because in our world, we know that the swinger, for folks who are like just dipping their toes, like barely curious, and typically have already ridden the traditional relationship escalator with somebody, are now like, that's the pipeline. It's actually usually swingers. If you're a partner, like, that'll start that process of opening up. And then in that, because the swinger typical exchange is very couple centered and coupled privilege, you'll walk around spaces and people refer to themselves, they use the we to describe, like, that is one of the distinctions that I always note that like is kind of jarring when I enter swinger spaces, is how they use the we to describe like to speak for two people, like a desire. We want this. Like, I don't, that's hard for me. I wish people spoke for themselves.
For sure. But I just think, like, and this is something that you and Bear say all the time, which is that at the very least, like, set up what the guidelines for that like experience are, right? So if I'm going into a swinger space and there's not like an understanding of that it will be that, I mean, obviously we learned that for ourselves, but I think just being more clear about like the distinctions, because I think people are leading with fear more. They're like, we're so different, rather than just being like, let me bridge the gap of our difference through like an explanation. Because I feel like if
getting on the same page is hard.
I feel like if we were on the same page that it would be that couple centric, it wouldn't have been that jarring, and then we would have had a different
there you go
experience. But in general, all of that is to say, like, if swinging is what you want to do, I love that. But like, say that. So on the show, it's couple to throuple. They're talking about polyamory, but those are people who are honestly they're pursuing open relationships, and maybe some of them might one day be pursuing polyamory, but they're not there yet. So why are we encouraging? There was like the clip of like Jonathan sleeping and the two of them just fighting like next to him. I was like, first of all, been there, and it's not fun. You're like, I can't go to sleep with them fighting. You're just pretending to sleep in the corner, and you're like, I just want to go home. Damn.
Wait, oh my gosh, you've been in that position? That sounds terrible. Yeah.
Yes.
With a couple.
I
Yeah.
haven't.
Actually, I think a
was
lot of
like,
us have, like the third in a fighting couple.
it was like, yeah, they were always fighting, and then it was a little bit more of a polycule than a couple, but it is the couple that I took all of my trauma from and projected it onto you and Bear. My bad. But they had like two other like kind of like casual well, one was their girlfriend eventually, but like two other casual partners. And one was like white, and the white one got drunk, goes on this like rant about Bob Marley and how she like cries about how racist people were to Bob Marley, just Bob Marley, I guess. And I was like, and I was like, fuck, it's in the middle of the night. I can't get out of here. Like, I miscalculated where I was at. And then
Wow.
the couple, like, no one really said anything. So I was like, I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm here for the night, so I better lock in. And then the guy was like, I just feel like nobody cares about my feelings. And I was like, how do you figure? Like, what are you talking about? We talk about your feelings all the time. Like, can you give me an example? And he was just like, no. And then he got mad and started ignoring, like, stonewalling me. And then the two of them were fighting, and I was like, but he was just like,
messy.
He was toxic masculinity, and he was really transphobic. We were literally arguing all the time about transphobia, but I didn't know enough. I was just like, you're wrong. And he would
There you go. And you know what?
Very manipulative.
As we go into answering these questions, I think we need to also hold that in mind that, like, I don't know what the belief structures of these people are, because a lot of this is contingent upon like all the players involved. So I think that's what's most complicated about Metamour relationships and like couple to throuple is that, like, we're assuming that decisions only have to be made between two people in a relationship.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference, is that when it's not a binary situation, you have to have the habit of knowing to check in with people. Yeah. But again, some people don't have that framework of being considerate, like, and just noticing, hey, maybe Gabby is uncomfortable in this situation. Like, maybe there were substances involved.
We're drinking a little bit.
Were people drunk?
So, a little bit, but more so what I think is, when you're so in that we always speak for we, and then you are in like these dynamics with solos, right? There's in this situation with that couple and three solo people that they were like seeing. But whenever I had my grievance at that point being his like transphobia and toxic masculinity, now the partner, the woman, is like part of the like rehabilitation conversation. And it's like, well, we just feel like, even though that's not how she feels, she's just like trying to bridge the gap between us two, but she's involving herself like positionality wise, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, suddenly it's we, and she's doing the emotional labor of translating what he means, but what he means is not correct.
No, she shouldn't be doing that work for him. That's the problem, is that, like, we still think that we need to speak for people, and people need to speak for themselves, and we don't need to figure out what they.
I think I'm incredibly triggered when the emotional labor that goes into a relationship gets offloaded onto the femme. When it's like, oh, so we will never have a conflict. Like, me and her will just conflict about it on your behalf. That's not how human conflict works.
And that tends to happen, especially if you're dealing with cis men, because they are actually so conflict averse in intimacy, like specifically. Like it's hard. My experience with them is that it's very hard to compute how you can simultaneously be in a loving, caring, intimate, deep relationship with someone and also have conflict, disagreements, things, disparities, reasons that you're not going to get along and things that you won't see eye to eye on. Like it's almost they're not in full pleasure mode. Like this is good, this is making me feel good. It's like the eject button is so fast for them. They're like someone else because it tends to be because they're like in prioritized positionally, like their comfort is prioritized. So usually if they want it, they get it. So it's like a thing where I'm not even going to question what I need to do to have my comfort because I'm entitled to that. Like if you're not
Yeah,
challenging that, you're not stepping in to actually face the fear and speak for
exactly.
yourself.
Exactly. No, for sure.
Yeah.
The like couple over everything um mindset is so hard to like witness, right? Because you're just like, oh, so what you're saying is that not only is it two against one, but like if any of you is uncomfortable, I'm about to get hurt. And it's like it's
Mm.
incredibly difficult to be like emotionally safe in that context. I love that context for like a little friendship, even though like we're just so it's normalized in society for the couple to be over a friendship, so it's like I don't take it as personal, but it like it's not so great when you're like, oh, we can get emotionally involved, and then later you're like, oh, but emotionally involved, but you still will not share power with me.
Mm. No, no, that's the sounds low committal to me. I'm just gonna
Mm,
get it wet for a second and head on out. Like, if that's the vibe, like I'm all about, just pleasure, contained consensual pleasure. But, if we're actually trying to care, pretend like we don't have to pretend like we care about each other. Okay. That's the other thing. Like, you don't have to like your
yeah,
Metamour. You don't actually like, you can have consensual pleasure with people and keep it moving. And it's if you're trying to cultivate emotional safe, like that's something else. I think our culture like has a really hard time distinguishing between those two. Like we don't know how to just have sex and like be respectful
yeah,
and kind and direct and like not make it now this love bomby end all be all thing just because we fucked. Like when can we just approach each other like in a human to human way instead of this
yeah,
escalate? Like the escalator is we need to cleanse ourselves of it, please.
yeah. Which just
Seriously.
means you still have to be nice. It's not saying like don't do aftercare or something, right? It's like do aftercare, check in, even like follow up after and like slowly ease out of the experience if that's something that you need. I feel like swingers do that with me a lot where like after we leave they like slowly
Mm-hmm.
taper off. And I appreciate
Mm.
that. Like if that's like the aftercare that you need, like that's nice. I'll be there for that because that's what you need, right? It's not that serious, but like the idea like now we keep talking and now it's like should we, I guess we have to, like we don't have to ride the escalator, we don't. And it took me a long time to learn that. Like don't get me wrong, I was purity culture mommy, like I was in the white dress promising my virginity to a husband who is nowhere to be found at age 31,
It's very
and I like it that
understandable
way.
that it's like definitely, yeah, it's in there. We're gonna have to look at it on a constant, consistent basis. The escalator will keep coming up. And if you
Yeah,
are trying to divorce yourself from it, just just notice like if you're I think the haste, the energy behind it is usually like you're a good sign that you might be riding on the escalators if things are feeling urgent. Like you need
yeah,
to manage someone's feelings about the direction that the relationship is going in instead of
yeah.
checking in with yourself and knowing if where you want to be at first. But
Listen, I mean to me
it depends.
part of
There's
that
no
is
size one.
embedded, that's so embedded in like monogamy culture though, the like I'm gonna pressure him, I'm gonna be like, oh, I want my ring, and like when is it happening, it's like a fun game that they play, and I'm like, okay, like I get it, like we like everybody loves a little role play, a little fake being annoying every now and then with your loved one, but it's also like like, are you actually creating such a severe sense of urgency? Like, and I know in monogamy that that's acceptable. That's what they want to do.
We're not about that here. Sorry.
No, not
Sorry.
us. I actually, like, when I first started, like, was like, I want to be polyamorous. I made a whole vision board for my year, and number one on it, write a book. Would you believe that's the year I wrote my book? And then I said number two,
Wow.
I want to be good at polyamory. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, I think what I meant by that is like, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to achieve compersion immediately, even though I was still figuring stuff out in my own life. Um, and like compersion is like came a lot later, to be honest. Like, why was I
Mm.
so focused on that out the gate? And number two, a lot of the pressure that I was receiving externally from friends or family, I was just listening to it too much. And also, I have ADHD, so if someone says something enough to me, I'm like, that's my own thought. So yeah, I was
I
like, oh,
feel that.
everyone's saying that I got to do this, and everyone's all migrating towards this, so I have to too, or there's something wrong with me. And then my
Mm-hmm.
first few years of polyamory, really, when I look back, I was processing like me letting go of that, like me not feeling like, oh my God, I'm being judged because I'm not on that path, and me letting go of everyone else's pressure because it's their responsibility.
Yeah, the way to navigate it with external pressure. I mean, that's kind of step number one, I would say, is like coming into ourselves in the process. And I think also like when you make these decisions, having grace around how that learning curve even came to be, because there's still a bravery in going out there and pushing your own boundary. And it sounds like really that was a part of the whole process so that you can get to where you are and understanding like where that all came from, but not letting it dictate the decisions that you make. And
Yeah,
um
I go more open hearted now, when I'm meeting people. And I even was like, damn, am I too open hearted now? Because I let go of some of that baggage, and then people were breaking my heart. But to be fair, I really don't regret that. I still, feel like that's a good foot to put forward, regardless.
it's not easy, and I think that's why there are so many questions about it. And I'm scanning the ones that you sent me, and I think like
Yeah.
we've spoken to some of them already with like just how to vocalize.
Yes.
And there's like the there's the external application of things, like there's influence, there's conditioning, there's culture, there's etc. There's like everything we are made up of when we're starting this process. And then there's like that context, that baggage. And then now we're like in it, practicing it, trying on non-monogamy, and all those things are influencing how we think we should be navigating this thing that really most of us don't have a template for. And again, it's never a one size fits all. So, like I saw one about messing up in first E&M relationships, tips to repair
Yeah.
trust after a not so ethical one. Like you having had not so ideal, was there a trust rebuilding process that you went through?
Yeah, I had to rebuild trust in my relationship, and it's difficult because what in monogamy, it's very like one mistake you're out kind of mentality when it with
Mm-hmm.
regards to perceived or actual like infidelity. So it's like if he cheats on you, you better leave. It's like the huge like pressure versus in non-monogamy, just cheating or like betrayal or hurt feelings are so different in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like the approach has to be completely different. Yeah, to rebuild trust in a non-monogamous dynamic, I would say, like, first and foremost, requires everyone kind of being on board. Otherwise, you may need to grieve and process and have like a healing journey of your own independently. I think like if folks don't
Yeah.
have a familiarity with accountability and how to go about that, it can be challenging to initiate a repair process. So that is my answer is like first make sure everyone's on the same page about initiating a repair process, and those that need to take accountability are wanting to. And then the trust comes after building enough reference to people not hurting each other anymore and building a new foundation that is different from the one that was causing issues before. Like nothing, there isn't going to be
Yeah.
trust if nothing changes. Like the structure, like whatever has to change for the trust to be built. So you may have to do, you may be able to
Yeah.
do that with the group, or you might have to do that alone.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to share my little story. So, like, early, this is not that early, but this is like the first birthday where, like, I was still dating someone else that I used to date. And that was the first birthday Kabir came and he brought flowers. And Olivia and I just, I think, were unclear on what our boundaries were for my birthday night, I guess, because when you go to a play party, anything kind of goes. But right now, we're, it's the number one of my birthday. We're with my friends, where it's a day about me. And then, so Olivia and her other partner disappeared. And, Olivia was just a little too turned and with her other partner. And I just felt really abandoned and neglected. And then, and we were at the strip club. So it was like a pretty horny environment, I will say. But I, at that early point, hadn't anticipated my birthday would be like an environment where people would be leaving to like go be intimate. So I was like, at my birthday party, and and then also then that it was prior to me having so much of a relationship with Miranda. So it was like, it was hard all around. But I'm so happy that we moved through it. It was like really hard, and I felt so shaky. And I was like, maybe I'm bad at polyamory. Like I went through all the cycles of grief, just to come back around and be like, actually, like I'm sure mistakes happen to a lot of people in their early polyam experience, and we're a lot stronger, I think, because of it. Because we finally came to that, oh, you don't know what you don't know kind of stage, and where you like don't know until someone's triggered and like sad on their birthday, and you got to move through one of those, I think. I don't know.
You do, and like you wouldn't have known until it happened, and so you rebuilt trust by having a conversation and making new commitments afterwards. And that's because both
Yeah.
of you came to the table and there was able to be an acknowledgement that, yeah, that was a boundary crossing. Like you can't really come to defensiveness to rebuild trust. That kind of fucks up the equation. It doesn't really add up if there is too much defensiveness. It's okay if something is hard to digest, but you have to be able to take it and change.
Yeah.
So that's what it takes. We have more questions. I don't know which one you want to jump to next. That was one of them.
We didn't answer the question fully. We just kind of gave stories.
I think we gave some good tips.
That did answer the question.
That was how to repair trust.
We did.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. That was a good one. Another one was, how do I give my boyfriend with abandonment trauma reassurance when he doesn't know how to vocalize his needs? I mean, I feel like I've gone through this too. Have you?
Well, I would say we've been talking about vocalization here, and I think just in reading this question, I think a lot of folks get really triggered or just activated when witnessing their partners in trigger activation. And so unfortunately, I don't know if there's a solution to it, anything you directly can do that can solve whatever is fully coming up for him. If it has to do with him vocalizing his needs, that's definitely something that can only come from him. And so, as far as you can offer him all the reassurance in the world. And I honestly, I would suggest incorporating a practice where you consistently check in with each other. So this is our bread and butter of a lot of what we suggest to couples is integrate a check-in, a regular emotional check-in, so that those of us who are having issues or trouble vocalizing, we have a contained space to do so. So this is an intentional check-in where you share affirmation and gratitude for each other, and then you also create space. So like you create emotional safety with affirmation, and then you step into challenges and you share what's coming up for you. So like if you create a consistent container for offering him a space to check in and vocalize his needs, that's something you could do. But unfortunately, I don't know of a case where reassurance from a partner to a partner with trauma or trigger or activation, honestly, I've actually heard that that is one of the least effective things when someone is in a response.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
So I think for myself in general, I expected like when I walked into polyamory, I thought I want to work on things about myself. So even at like my most triggered by a situation, I was always like, well, this is the work that I wanted to do, and like, what is this was coming up for me? That's the point of this. And I journaled a lot. But like, if someone, so I already felt prepared to like, yeah, ask for reassurance when I needed it, but also I wanted to get used to like reassuring myself and leaning on like a self-soothe process. And my partner has OCD, and I jump into caretaking because number one, as ADHD, I want to solve everyone's problems. That gives me the exact dopamine I need to get through my day. I love solving somebody's problems. So like as soon as like my partner is sad or upset or triggered in need of reassurance, I'm immediately like, boom, I'm feeding it. Here you go. More reassurance, more this, more that. But a lot of thought disorders and anxiety disorders, like they prohibit that reassurance actually doing what you think it's doing, which is reassuring. Instead, it's proving that activated state is like correct. Like was that the way of solving that problem, the strategy was that activated state and to achieve getting that reassurance. And then you come to rely on that reassurance. And I walked into polyamory hearing you have to always be reassuring your partner. If your partner needs a little reassurance, then go ahead and give it. We even went to a party with like a bunch of polyamorous folks, like, relationship coaches, everything. And, Liv kind of shared about her not feeling super secure all the time. And they were like, well, are you giving her reassurance? And I almost I wanted to throw the fucking turkey at them. I was like, if I give any more reassurance, I will be a robot, a reassurance robot.
Also,
so we can't just do a hard and fast rule. Basically, it's just like everyone's like, you have to give reassurance, and I'm like, what? I don't have enough hours in the day.
No, actually, reassurance can sometimes come off condescending and just not listening enough to a person. So stop yourself before you offer reassurance and ask, where is this? Why do I want to offer this? What is making me feel like I need to offer this right now? Am I trying to change my partner's feelings about this? And if so,
right.
Reminder, it's probably you're not gonna be able to change. Yeah.
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 Exactly.
So have a protocol.
I just want to change it.
No, it's like it really is about building, co-creating these a protocol because it's changed between Bear and I over the years. Had like because we've changed, we just have changed, and so our
Yeah.
activations and
Yeah.
triggers like will shift, and new ones will come, and old ones will go, etc. And just protocols around how to respond in the case where one of us is feeling any type of way, instead of, and so
Yeah.
that will help with a lot of conflict like just ending conflict cycles a little early is if we stop trying to change the way our partners are feeling about something.
That was my work for sure. I was waking up every day like I'm a fixer. And it really that wasn't the
No,
work. The
it's
work was just loving her. Just like being there and loving my
oh,
partner and showing up for my
and
partner.
that's a work that a lot of people don't want to do, and that's okay if you're not trying to build a committed and deep relationship with someone. However, let it be known if you're not available for that so that you're not hurting nobody's feelings.
Right.
Do you want to
No,
move
exactly.
to the next
Yeah.
one? Okay,
Yeah.
which
What's the
one
next
do you like?
question? Um, let's see. So we
I've got a
have
couple.
any advice for feeling less insecure when a Metamour is super hesitant to be IRL? I received this like the first week we did this, which is why it's so funny because we were sharing the story of how we met, and I was like very hesitant to meet you. I think the answer to this question is that it probably has nothing to do with you. You can't make someone want to meet up with you. I'm sorry, babes.
It's unfortunate that as much as you might want to, yeah, just kind of hold out. I think this is also a good plug for metamours not always having to be friends, and
Yeah.
the insecurity that might be coming up. I don't know what it might be around. Could it be that like, oh, this metamour is hesitant, and that's unlike other dynamics that you've experience, and so you feel like you should have a reason to feel insecure just because the metamour is feeling hesitant. And so I think that has to do with being in the limbo of unknowing, like we don't know what's going to become of your metamour and your partner's relationship. We don't know if the
Yeah.
metamour is ever going to want to meet you, and you as the partner, depending on the dynamic that you have, are just your role is really just to support your partner. So it's going to be uncomfortable. You might realize that that dynamic does not work for you, and you need a partner who dates people who want to meet you right away. You could co-create that with your partner if that's the standard you want to set. And there is a lot to learn from just sitting it out. I think that's a great
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Just see what
I feel like I
happens.
learned in my early stages that like some of the work was to mind my fucking business. Like it is honestly too much brain power to be that like invested in like the outcome and like status of my partner's other relationships. Like, do you let me know what's going on? I would love to be informed and stay active, but like I don't want to live inside of your experience so much that I like am I have like skin in the game. Like, geez, I'm not dating them.
Yo, that was what led to our whole de-escalation. Folks who've been around long enough know that Bear and I were set to be engaged. We had a wedding desire to do the whole government thing, get official, even though we were non-hierarchical polyamorous. Really approached it kind of, we had to switch it so that we went back to what we originally started off as, which was solo polyamory. And we saw that we were getting way too invested in each other's other relationships. And that was due to a lot of other factors of riding the intimacy escalator in a lot of different ways with co-living and, building a business, etc. So we realized I'm not minding enough of my business. Like, I'm
Nope.
too all up in your business, and we need to take it 10 step back, please.
Mm-hmm.
What a great
And then
release. Oh my God.
because you can feel so much more secure if like just focusing on more of your own life than feeling so responsible for like focusing and managing your partner's life and being like involved in it in such a like strong way, it gives you the freedom to like really nurture your friendships and your other partnerships, to focus more on the work you've been putting off because you're going on 4 dates a week, and then gossiping about all 4 of the dates with your other partner who also went on 4 dates, um, and holding like meetup ceremonies. Like I mean, I used to date someone who would like introduce each new partner to the partners before they really develop something, and I was like, that sounds exhausting. You have to get on the same schedule before they even know that they want to stick around.
It's true. I mean, if that's the kind of bonds you want to build and that's the order that feels good for you and the people you care about, and everyone's willing and on the same page and all about it, go have a grand time. Will it last forever? Is that super sustainable? I don't know. It depends. You have to make sure that that's something you can keep up with for as long as you want to. And if so, have a ball. I
Yeah,
definitely feel like the mantra of mind my own business is like, this is a pleasure podcast, and this is such a key ingredient in like really being
for
able to
pleasure.
access our own pleasure. Like, mind your own for a sec, like do it
Yeah,
more. Just
yeah,
do it more in
literally.
general. Yes,
Hmm. Well,
it
because
will
like, so
help.
I mean, when I hang out with couples, they're so like, oh, like, well, we have that on this day, and did we do this, and what, like, just so much is like that we mindset. Even just stepping out of that for a little bit and being like, what do I want? Like, I know that my partner wants this, and we have agreed to X, Y, Z. But what do I want in this moment? What do I want moving forward? Um, that's just, it doesn't seem like such an active process when people are writing the relationship escalator without like analyzing where they're at on it or what it means.
And it can happen in polyamory and non-monogamy too. And so like when we're stepping into that role of like managing or worrying, and it makes sense, yes, that maybe you're used to meeting your metamour sooner than in this case. And if you're, I don't know, I like to say, at least for myself, like, if I'm really about it, then let me be about it. Let me really try this all the way through and see if there is something on the other side worth being here for. And I happen to believe that all of it is. So there's always an
Yeah.
opportunity to learn and grow.
Yeah. Um, well, we
I
have
think
another
we got
question, kind of
maybe, yes.
similar. I think
Which one?
that was good for it. This one is
Mm-hmm.
navigating birthdays and holidays with parallel poly partners. I'm the hinge and 30th is coming. So, I mean, I'm not currently parallel poly with at all.
Are they both down?
But
That's Oh, wait, you cut out for me for a second there.
oh, sorry. Oh, I cut off. Yeah, I was saying I'm not parallel. So like, just I want to give that disclaimer. But like,
Mm.
when my partner was dating someone who, it was just like very early, we hadn't met yet, and they were hesitant, and then a birthday came up, and I was like, well, damn, what are we gonna do? Like, it just ended up being like a complicated night of management. And then I was frustrated, and I'm sure that other guy was frustrated, maybe. So like, it just, I think it takes a lot of skill to navigate. It depends on how long those parallel partners have been in polyamory. Like, if they're parallel and newly poly, like, you want to throw a 30th birthday with all of them? What about
I
multiple
mean,
birthdays? Like, multiple parties is great.
the
The
thing
point of your birthday
is,
is to be, happy.
that's right. And the thing is, if they're parallel and they at the same party, it's not parallel no more. So are you ready to cross that threshold with your partners? And are they ready to
Mm.
cross that line with each other? Because the parallel partnership, I have
Oh,
that dynamic. Now we're lagging, I think, a little bit. I'm not sure, but we're gonna wrap up soon. But the parallel dynamic that I'm in is one in which the crossing, like, it would be a very, very big deal. And it, if I would have to really want that, because the way that the structure has been built between my parallel partners is one that, yeah, I would need to want that. Like, what do you want to get out of that? Like, do you need them to, and it could be a thing where it's not a big deal and they meet each other once and then they go back to being parallel and it's just to celebrate you and your birthday, then fine. If no, all parties are consenting, have a great birthday,
Yeah.
I think.
I think for the birthday where my partner was bringing up a parallel partner, originally I had other plans the day that she planned. So I was like, all right, I'm not going. And then when my plans got canceled, I was like, well, okay, I don't want to go to your birthday now. And she's like, you're not gonna go to my birthday? And I'm like, well, I don't have plans. I'm not gonna stay away from your birthday. It's just like the way things happen. And it was made worse by the fact that my cousin passed away that day. And I
Dang.
was emotional, and I was like, I need to be able to, I want to just lean on my partner. But every time she spoke, she was like switching off between us. Um,
Mm.
and like trading off time, and like that schedule just was like not possible. When I was like, I need you right now. Actually, if he could, I don't care if he could come too, whatever. But like, it's just, so by the end of the night, I was like, can I just sit down and talk and like, um, be honest about where I'm at? Because I gotta go home.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, like, I'm
There you
not doing
go.
okay. And it just blew up so much that like I just learned like I don't think a parallel partner that is also coming where you have to switch on and off between us at your event is like super aligned with where we're at in polyamory.
It's hard. Yeah, like that's why I said I'm like, if they're both in the same place, it's not really parallel no more.
Right?
So
What are you
just
supposed to
be
do
ready
now?
for
I was
that.
like, my cousin died. What now? My cousin died. Now he got to know that I am about to have a mental breakdown in front of all these people because it's about to be everyone's problem.
Yeah, that's a challenging situation to have to like it really, yeah, definitely be intentional. Maybe if your partners have other partners, ask them to come or like I would suggest, I think that could potentially help if people have their other buddies to go to in that case, so that there isn't a lot of pressure from one partner to attend to multiple partners. So if you have a plan like that in place, maybe that could help. But yeah, there might be a lot of pressure, so just be
Yeah,
ready for that.
that would have helped, right? I would have been like, oh my God,
Hmm.
my cousin just died and that she's sitting with parallel guy over there. Let me go to my partner then. Yeah,
Right.
that's a great solution.
Yes.
Wow. You should be a relationship
If
coach.
I love you so much. You're so funny. Do you think we have time for one more
One
before
more?
we
Yeah.
close the episode?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
let's see.
yeah. The last one
Which
being,
one
do
do
you
you
ever feel
like?
like you and your partner could date the same person? Didn't work for me. Oh.
Didn't work for you.
Um, that's what they said is part of the question. That's not what I said. I've never tried to do that with my partner. Maybe a
I'm
little bit. Like
currently
we went on like
intriguing
a date.
somebody.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit. Like but separately. It's, I don't
Mm.
know, it's cute. It's not, yeah. It's like simultaneously but separately. We're intriguing somebody, which I think
I
is
do feel like
what
that's
this question is asking.
I, yeah, yeah. It depends. I think in the early
Hmm.
stages of my polyamory, I probably couldn't. Maybe now that I could if I started dating someone at the same time ish, similar to what you're talking
Same
about. But like,
time-ish. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. But like,
Yeah.
could me
No,
and my partner date like the same person in terms of like, and also but keeping it separately. Like, I just don't like the idea of like me having to spend my time as a threesome.
right. I just,
And I
I
don't
don't
really
know.
understand the reason for it.
I also, the couples privilege thing, like, I take very seriously for me. Like, I have been I've had to break up with somebody because they couldn't get past the fact that there was no, we were really carefully intentionally designing the way we dated other people so that that wasn't a thing that could get in the way of building intimacy with someone. But that person felt so insecure about it that they couldn't really fully give in to the relationship. I wanted to go deeper with them, but they couldn't. And so with like sharing, that's just gonna always be a huge thing. Like if a couple, if two people are sharing the same person, I think it just depends. Like what three-way scenario are we talking about? Is it a V dynamic where yeah, like two people are separately dating the same person, or is it an all around, all at the same time, all together thing?
That just sounds
Uncertain, but
so claustrophobic. It's like, especially for me in my experience of polyamory, like I just know that no relationship progresses at the exact same time, even if like on paper it seems like it would.
it's true.
Connections don't like proceed at the same pace, and people don't move through like their triggers and traumas at the same pace. So it's just like for three people to be dating and like kind of trying to fit it into a box of somewhat being happening at the same or similar pace, it just feels like it would compromise authenticity.
So be wary that like each individual kind connection is its own connection. So if you're co-dating or dating at the same time or throupling it up, it is a lot of work. Yeah. The work is get ready. Well,
yeah.
These are some good questions.
That is our episode. Yeah. I'm super excited. Oh, my laptop looks like it's struggling. What is going on here? But these were some excellent questions.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Gabby. And the recording is gone. Hello. Oh. Oh, it's just me. But Gabby isn't here. All right, y'all. Well, we don't know what happened to Gabby, but we'll be here next week, and I'm going to close out this live. And wishing you all the best. Buenos días. Amores a todos. Ciao.